Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 Prophet and Warlock early access action. And oh man, that guy's mean mugging, huh? Look at that Ripperdactyl. Today we're going to be taking a look at a replay between my Empire and Gojira's Lizardmen. Obviously, TEHENUAIN here leading the way for the Lizardmen. He's got Transformation of Kadon, able to summon up a Manticore and Flock of Doom, so looking to have a powerful air force. To that effect, we've also got some Pterodon Riders, Pawhawk Sentinels, the Regiment of Renowned Pterodons, as well as the Colossadon Hunters. So these are the Ripperdactyls. Ripperdactyls are a heavy armor-piercing flying unit, relatively light armor, but the damage is certainly heavy. A bonus versus large of +10 on this Regiment of Renown. They also have the Toad Rage, giving themselves additional weapon damage, and so on. 56 charge bonus, 60 melee attack. Relatively glass cannon unit, but they can do a ton of damage. For the rest of the army, we've got a whole line of red-crested skinks, of course, the unbreakable cohort of Sotek in the center, 3 units of croc scores, and some chameleon skinks up front. For my Empire army, we've got KARL FRANZ leading the way up on Deathclaw in the air. I'm a little bit scared now at this point because dangerous situation. We've got the Tempelhof Luminarch as well, which just missed barely, unfortunately. Line of state troop spearmen, quite spread out, as well as 4 Empire Knights, 2 here and 2 here. We've got 2 Outriders with repeaters and 1 Outrider with grenade launchers. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. And right off the bat, we're going to be trying to disrupt the Lizardmen advance as much as possible. That's kind of why I'm in this sort of weird skiwampus deployment. But unfortunately, I'm going to take a little bit of Overwatch fire on these Outriders. This is not the best. I'm definitely going to need these guys to see off some of these Flyers. And yeah, the Flyers are definitely a big danger. You can see those Outriders already taking some really good damage right off the bat. And the flying engagement is definitely going to be, a potentially dangerous situation. Tempelhof Luminarch here does get a couple really good hits on the Colossadon Hunters, finishes off a single unit model there, and does a ton of HP damage. And yeah, that is going to get them away from the Outriders, at least for a moment. The other range fire, though, definitely still a danger. We're going to use the net from the Tempelhof Luminarch to net down those expensive Colossadon Hunters and just shoot them with the Outriders, although we don't necessarily need the AP, just anything that we can shoot them with. Again, they're an expensive, powerful unit. Meanwhile, KARL FRANZ is, he's in a bit of a pickle. He's managed to lead some of these guys into the woods, so I can try and protect from some of the range fire. Empire Knights charging into the skinks on the ground. They will do quite a bit of damage. Red-crested skinks as well. Very cost-effective charge here, especially the Regiment of Renown there. They have light armor and relatively low melee defense, so they will take a lot of damage from these Empire Knight charges here. Beautiful stuff. And up in the air, Franz is doing just fine. He's able to do a ton of damage to the Pterodon Riders, see them off. Unfortunately, TEHENUAIN, you can see, is trying to engage here. He was in a little bit of a traffic collision there with one of those Pawhawk Sentinels, unfortunately. The Luminarch still going after the Colossadon Hunters, and in the back line, I've gotten these Outriders up and around to grenade launch some of these skinks. Now, granted, they are going to take some return fire, so it's not going to be, super ideal, but they can do some work here. Meanwhile, KARL FRANZ still up in the air, still fighting. This is not the best. He's now surrounded by the Manticore. The Colossadon Hunters are in here as well. We've got TEHENUAIN, and so it's just generally not the best situation for KARL. He's starting to take quite a bit of damage. I have popped all the buffs to try and juice up his combat stats, give him some bonus versus large. We're also healing him as much as possible as well, so he has been able to tank through a lot of damage so far. But you can see there, TEHENUAIN getting some really good hits there. And yeah, KARL FRANZ all of a sudden in just a bad situation. I'm going to need to get him out of there ASAP. Meanwhile, in the back line, the Croc Scores have made it to the state troops. And I'm going to be using the Outriders to try and provide a little bit of Overwatch here. Do a little bit of armor-piercing damage. They do not have the best DPS. Like, they don't have a ton of burst damage. But given time, they'll definitely do some damage. Luminarch, a little bit caught up here. Not the best. But Empire Knights trying to clean up some of these skinks as well. Trying to keep them away from the Croc Scores as much as possible. Grenade launcher still grenading those chameleon skinks, and you can see KARL FRANZ again pinned in by those Pterodon Riders, barely able to get away here, just barely holding his leadership together. We're going to pop a desperate regrowth here to try and keep him online, but this is a really not a great situation. Another summoned Manticore from TEHENUAIN, and the skink himself did take a ton of damage, got terrified away, but he's back from rout, able to summon up that Manticore, and the Overwatch fire from the skinks is not great at this point. You can see my Jade Wizard just got routed off, so things are not looking amazing, honestly, but we do still have plenty of Outriders here providing some good Overwatch fire. We do still have the Templehof Luminarch online. It was able to pull away from these Kroxigors over here, and we're now going to be able to use it to support Franz up in the air. You can see that regrowth did help him to tank through a lot of that damage, managed to hold his leadership together, which is very important. But yeah, that blast there blasts one of those Pawhawk Sentinels. Now at this point, I'm like, okay, we can probably turn around and start fighting that Manticore and so on. It looks like we're actually going to net the Manticore and just fight the Pawhawk Sentinels separately. You can see the Manticore just barely out of attack range, and the summon actually wears off and he just goes down anyway. It is worth noting, summons now have a timer, so yeah, his time was up, so to speak, quite literally. But Empire Knights continuing to charge through. They're trying to get me back in this game by just taking out a lot of the supporting infantry here, trying to isolate these Kroxigors as much as possible. Kroxigors have taken quite a bit of damage. All three units, you know, they have been worn down a little bit by the Empire Spears. KARL, on the other hand, is still in a bit of a pickle. We're going to put one more heal on him, probably bring him up to his healing cap there, but you can see TEHENUAIN desperately trying to dodge the shots of that Templehof Luminarch there. But yeah, Franz able to carry the air engagement, and I was honestly surprised. I was a little bit scared that he would not be able to take this aerial engagement very effectively, but he's done great here. And I mean, granted, Gojira didn't have all of his tools in place at the same time. If he had, you know, the Colossadon Hunters, TEHENUAIN all together, they would have torn KARL FRANZ apart, no problem. But because the engagement happened a little bit piecemeal, and because I was able to get a lot of early damage on the Colossadon Hunters with the Luminarch and with the Outriders and so on, ended up being okay. You can see the Jade Wizard getting picked on by TEHENUAIN here is not the best, but that does mean he's relatively stationary. And the Luminarch comes in and takes him down. So, Prophet of Sotek, you know, just like everybody else, if he gets blasted by a Luminarch, tends to fall over relatively quickly. And with his loss, that has tipped the balance of power in my favor. You can see the Kroxigors going very heavily after these Empire Knights. Understandable, they want to see them off. They are a major threat here at this point, but last shot from the Templehof does take out one or two of those Kroxigors. And now we're going to start using it as a chariot to rear charge those red-crested skinks over there. Yeah, these state troops trying to hold the line here against the Regiment of Renown red-crested skinks. They're not going to do the best, but KARL should be coming back in just a moment after he sees off some more of those Pterodons. Outriders also out of ammo at this point as well. Having used up all of their ammo does mean that they've generated some excellent value, especially against the Kroxigors. Kroxigors are going to be a strong pick for the Lizardmen in a number of matchups, and if you don't have the tools to deal with them, they can actually be very scary. Thankfully, in this battle, just through sheer attrition, through the use of the Outriders, the Luminarch, and more, we were able to finish things off. You can see Franz now coming in, supporting the state troops, finally able to come down to the ground now that he's decisively won the aerial engagement, terrify away these red-crested skinks, the Pawhawk Sentinels, and we'll just generally clean up the rest of this battle. So, very well played to Gojira. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching that one. I know it's always a pleasure for me to get to play the Empire, and against the new Lizardmen stuff, you know, I was expecting some different things. I do think that the Templehof Luminarch is still going to be a great pick in this matchup in some situations, but definitely a bit risky. Likewise, taking Franz up in the air used to be, you know, an auto pick just about. There was almost nothing that could challenge you. You know, maybe a Tempest and heavy missile fire, but just generally there wasn't a ton that could challenge Franz up in the air. But now that's definitely different. With TEHENUAIN and some powerful flying units, you definitely are at more of a risk of being taken out in an aerial duel. And yeah, just in general, it's going to be a victory for the Empire. Obviously, at this point, it's just the unbreakable skinks holding out. But yeah. It is still, I think, a viable pick, but it's certainly riskier. The Lizardmen can take powerful flying forces, but yeah, just overall, fun battle. And yeah, TEHENUAIN definitely very strong. Obviously, having Lore of Beasts on a powerful flying unit means that, you know, you can support yourself with Manticores up in the air, and that's definitely an effective way to go about winning an aerial engagement. Of course, with like the Colossedon Hunters, with just Ripper-Dactyls in general, that even gives you another option to go up in the air. So yeah, definitely a bit riskier to challenge the Lizardmen in the skies, but in this battle ended up working out just barely for KARL FRANZ. I ended up having to dump pretty much all of my Winds of Magic into him, but, you know, hey, he is the Emperor, right? He deserves it, absolutely. Towards the rest of the army here, you can see this one unit of Empire Knights that got loose into the backline of the Lizardmen, cleaning up 287 kills. It's one of the reasons why you need Shock Cavalry in this matchup. They'll do well against Saurus, they'll do well against Skinks. Just generally, you know, you want to try and clear out the infantry support so that you can isolate the dinos. Very, very important, and Empire Knights are a great tool for doing that. Likewise, 45 kills on the grenade launchers. They were able to get some good work done. Obviously, the Templehof, only 19 kills, but some very high-value kills at that. Quite a few of those were Colossedon Hunters, and of course, one of those was TEHENUAIN himself. The Croc scores doing some great work, 56 kills, 35 and 37. Colossedon Hunters, pretty expensive, considering that they took a bunch of damage. They did some damage to KARL FRANZ, but it probably wasn't super cost effective at the end of the day. But yeah, I do see what Gojira was going for here. The red-crested Skinks will trade very cost effectively with most Empire infantry. Even I didn't actually test them against great swords when I was doing my testing. I might need to do that, but probably like even great swords they would trade okay against. Maybe not flagellants, probably not flagellants actually, but you know, they'll trade well against State Troop Swordsmen, State Troop Spearmen. So I definitely like that pick quite a bit in this matchup. You can see two units here, 117 and 101 kills, able to get some really nice work done. But unfortunately, it just wasn't quite enough. The mobility was a bit too much for the Lizardmen, and the various ranged fire able to counter their expensive damage dealers. So yeah, ended up working out. Most of my videos over the coming week are going to be double casts. However, this one, you know, the Empire deserves to be on their own, I believe. So this will be it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. If you want to support my channel in a more personal way, help me take this to the next level, help me do this full time, be sure to take a look at the link to Patreon in the description below. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.